Aloha to the la hui. I am going to wait just a couple of seconds. If you already know me, then you know I don't like to have a long intro and wait for everybody to pop on because when I watch a video, I like it to just start right off. So, we today is finally coming down to the end of the Diddy trial. Closing arguments have begun for the prosecution. Yesterday, there was all this talk that they dropped charges, blah, blah, blah. There was 0 charges dropped. The RICO charge is still alive and well. What they did do is the prosecution dropped 3 predicate acts. So that means there are 3 things that they're removing that they're saying that they can prove, which was arson, aiding and abetting sexual sex trafficking, and then it wasn't bribery, kidnapping. So what they did is they just removed those 3 predicate acts from the RICO, but the RICO charge is still going. So as of this morning, 10 a.m., that's 10:02 a.m. That's when the prosecution started their closing argument. So that's what we're going to read here. We're going to start from the very beginning at 10:02 a.m. Judge, while we wait, Ms. Comey, do you have the laptop ready? Comey says yes or defers to Garrigos. Let's skip that. All right, let's get our jury. All rise, jurors enter. Judge, give your attention to the party's closing argument. So the judge is speaking to the jury. The judge is basically telling them, pay attention to what the U.S. prosecutors are saying. This is what you're going to need to pay attention to when it's time to go and deliberate to determine if you're going to give a guilty or non-guilty verdict for the Diddy trial. All right. Judge, give your attention to the party's closing arguments. Today will be shorter. The U.S. closings, tomorrow the defense, the rebuttal, my instructions, and begin deliberations. The jurors who will stay. So basically, he's telling the jurors, today's going to be the prosecutors who's going to give their closing arguments. Tomorrow is when Diddy's defense team hi, how are you guys? Diddy's defense team is going to start giving their closing arguments. There's going to be a rebuttal, and then the judge is going to give his instructions to the jury, and then they will begin deliberations as soon as possibly tomorrow, if not Monday. Okay. Now, Christie's. Oh, happy birthday, Eileen. I hope you have a wonderful birthday. In Hawaiian, we say, Haoli lahanau. Haoli lahanau to Eileen. Okay, so don't mind me if I don't read the comments because it kind of throws me off when I'm reading this and then I read that and then I can't find my place. So I'm not listening to you guys. It just throws me off. Alrighty, so Christy Slavic, who is a prosecutor, is the one who gave the closing argument today. I'm glad I only got to read in one voice. Over the last few weeks, you've learned that Sean Combs is the leader of a criminal organization. He doesn't take no for an answer. He's into kidnapping, arson, forced labor, bribery of a security officer, and the brutal crimes of sex trafficking. Okay, sorry guys. I just want to... oh, I'm glad I said it right. Hi, you guys. Hi, Antonio. She is reading this directly to the jurors, okay? So she's going to sum up everything all the testimony that they've done over the course of the last 5 to 6 weeks, all the charts that they've seen, the exhibits, the text messages, the receipts, and this is their chance, the prosecution, the government's chance to finally wrap everything up together. All the testimonies, all the evidence, all the exhibits, and wrap it up into a pretty package so that the jury can hear it and they're now going to go and deliberate on it. Okay, so this is their last push. This is their last push. They're going to really push to, hey, we really want a guilty verdict. So she got to bring the big guns. And from everything that everyone who I've read that is there, she did that today. So let's continue. Consider 2 moments. March 2016 at the Intercontinental Hotel. The defendant got violent with Cassie. You saw what happened. He dragged her back to the freak-off. 2024 at Jane's house. The defendant choked and hit her. She ran, but couldn't get away. These are chapters in the same book. The defendant counted on silence and shame. He thought his fame and wealth and power put him above the law. Over the last 7 weeks, you've heard how he used his staff to promote his power. No one could stop him. We'll talk about RICO, including sex trafficking and transportation for prostitution, which are also separately charged as standalone crimes. You may have heard of racketeers. When someone commits crime as part of a group, they are more dangerous. A group of people whose purpose was to serve and protect the defendant. I'm just going to say Diddy, the defendant is Diddy. It's Diddy's kingdom. Everyone was there to serve him, fulfilling all of his desires, including his sexual desires. We need to show at least 2 racketeering crimes. Diddy was the head of the Combs enterprise. There was an inner circle, his chief of staff and his bodyguards. The names have changed, but the roles remain the same. You've heard about KK, Christina Coram, Combs's right brain. She lived in Two Star. I did not know she lived in Two Star. KK communicated with Diddy's girlfriends. His security, you heard their names: D-Rock, Roger Bonds, Rube, Uncle Polly, Fahim. They were armed and ready. Remember the incident at the diner with Suge Knight? David James told you that Diddy had guns. In the raid, law enforcement found guns, including a rifle with the serial number defaced in LA, 2 AR-15s with the serial numbers cut out in Diddy's closet. You also have the rotating cast of assistants paid by Diddy's business. Brendan Paul said he made $100,000 a year. KK made 6 times that. She made $600,000 a year. Wow. When your boss asks you to buy drugs, you're committing a crime. When you kidnap someone or lock your girlfriend in a hotel room after they stomped his face in, it is a crime. The law does not require us to know that they liked committing these crimes. You saw KK chiding with Diddy to not be so reckless, but she got him cash, drugs. She was a member of the enterprise. It impacted interstate commerce. Minimal is fine. I don't know what that means. Combs knowingly became a member. He was the boss. He was the through line. The racketeering acts: distribution of drugs, kidnapping, arson, bribery, facilitating sex trafficking of Cassie and Jane Doe, forced labor, travel for commercial sex, a cover up. You only need to find that someone would commit 2 acts in any of these categories. It could be 2 acts of drug distribution, 1 kidnapping, but just 2. You have far more than 2. Let's start with drugs, an essential ingredient of the freak-offs. The most involved was D-Rock, KK, and Fahim, but others helped keep the drug supply high. We're not talking about marijuana, but what Brendan Paul called hard drugs. There are stipulations of the drugs found in the searches: cocaine, meth, oxy, ketamine, a dissociative drug, GHB, mushrooms, Molly, Tusi, a combination dyed pink. It's 1305 and 1306. I believe that's the exhibit number. The quantities are not relevant. It's not an element of this crime. Distribution does not require a sale. So she's really just pointing out that he distributed it, period. You know the names of the drug dealers by now: Guido, One Stop, Baby Girl. Those are the 3 drug dealers. Jane told you that on 2 occasions she was told to bring drugs when she flew to meet Diddy. She coordinated with KK. It's corroborated by text messages. KK told Jane to swing by Mapleton, which is his LA mansion, to pick up the Guido package. Guido is the drug dealer. He was called during the hotel nights. So we know what the Guido package is: more ecstasy. The security team knew what it was. Guido texted Fahim, Puff has a $450 balance with me. Brendan Paul asked for $780 for personal Gucci items. That is hard drugs. So they're saying the hard drugs was the personal Gucci items. Drugs were distributed. It doesn't matter that he wasn't buying kilos or selling them. Personal use is just a distraction. They bought and distributed to people around him. Cassie used drugs at every freak off supplied by the defendant. He introduced Jane to drugs, gave them to her at all but one hotel night. He gave drugs to Carrie Morgan and Banna Bonalon. He made Brendan Paul try Tusi to see if it was good. So right now they're proving drug distribution. D-Rock would text one stop. Need to see someone for bro. That's the text. That is Diddy. Guido asked Fahim to cover the defendant's drug debt. That right there is drug distribution. KK knew he was distributing drugs to the woman for the Wild King Nights. Wild King Nights are also freak-offs. Jane told KK that she was having a bad calm down. KK gives pro tips on how to deal with it. Plain and simple, this is drug distribution. How about kidnapping? They committed them under both California and New York law. Consider Cassie. Bond made her stay put. Diddy called Cassie a slut, and he stomped on her face. She was disfigured. Roger Bonds caught her and brought her back. So Cassie basically Diddy beat her. Cassie left. He sent Roger Bonds, his security guard, to go out and bring Cassie back. Diddy made her go to the London hotel on Sunset so that no one would see her. She wanted to go home to her mom, but no. So basically Diddy, she got busted. He stomped on her face. She tried to escape. He made Roger Bonds go and get her and to hold her up in the London hotel until her face would heal, and then she could leave the hotel. Kidnapping. It's clear that Cassie did not consent to staying in the London hotel. David James testified that the defendant demanded to see his search history if he had posted that the defendant assaulted Cassie in the club. David James was one of his personal assistants. Then there's Capricorn Clark. They made her take a lie detector test for days in an empty office building in Manhattan. That was in 2004. She was holding expensive jewelry that went missing. Uncle Polly took her to the future headquarters of Bad Boy, and she was tested for 5 lies. The man administering the tests told Capricorn Clark that if she failed, she'd end up in the East River. In Central Park, the defendant, Diddy, told her if anything happened, he'd have to kill her. David James remembers this. He was tested too to get the rat out of the team. Hey, Tosh. In December of 2011, Rube helped the defendant kidnap Capricorn Clark. It started on December 22nd, 2011. Diddy banged on Capricorn's door with a gun. He was out for revenge. He barked an order at Capricorn. Get dressed, we're going to kill Cuddy. They drove to Kid Cudi's house. The defendant had a gun on his lap. This is kidnapping. Diddy moved her a substantial distance. Diddy said he wouldn't let her until she brought him Cassie. He wouldn't let her go until she brought him Cassie, who he kicked when Cassie arrived into a fetal position. So he went to Capricorn Clark's house, kidnapped her, took her to Kid Cudi's. She was like held hostage, right? And then he said, "You better get Cassie over here." So when he goes to get Cassie, he starts kicking her and she goes into a fetal position. Cassie, who was with Kid Cudi that morning, testified to this. The officer who responded to the 911 call, he saw a black Escalade registered to Bad Boy Entertainment. Then on January 12, 2012, the defendant, Diddy, had Kid Cudi's car set on fire. That is arson. Someone cut a hole in the roof of Kid Cudi's car and dropped in a Molotov cocktail. We're not suggesting the defendant cut the hole. He didn't even buy his own soup. You've heard the voice notes. He said he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car. What are the odds that Diddy says it and then it happens? The coincidences just keep coming. The defendant, or Diddy and Rube, just happened to be there a few weeks before. Kid Cudi was driving the same Porsche the night of the trespass. What are the odds? Kid Cudi had conflicts with no one except for Diddy. Then D-Rock brought Kid Cudi to the defendant, who was looking like a Marvel super villain. Years later, Diddy apologized to Kid Cudi. Then there's Bribery. The 2016 video. Oh yeah, they bought that video from the Intercontinental. Diddy was having a freak off with Cassie and one of the escorts, Jules. Flores found Diddy sitting in a chair with what he called a devilish stare. In the room, he saw another man. The defendant tried to hand Flores a stack of money. Okay, so in case you guys don't know, that event where Cassie got beat and that video that's played everywhere where she's by the elevator and Diddy beats her, it was a freak off that was happening in the bedroom that she was leaving. She thought Diddy was sleeping, so she was like making her escape. Jules is the male escort that was there. Flores was the security guard that was working at the Intercontinental Hotel. So Flores gets called up to their where they're staying at the level that they're staying at, and he goes to kind of minimize the situation. And Diddy tries to hand him a bunch stacks. He has wads of hundreds, and he's trying to hand them to Flores to pay him off. Mind you, Flores is now, this happened in 2016. Today, Flores is a Los Angeles police officer. He is LAPD. Okay. It was Diddy's first attempt at a bribe that day. As Cassie leaves, Diddy starts doing damage control. Judge, we had a power issue. Is your mic working? Slavic, hello? Yes. Okay. They continue. He called Cassie over a dozen times. The text said, "Call me, cops are here." He was manipulating her, but Diddy knew he could be arrested. There was a video of the assault. He went and banged on Cassie's door with a hammer. Neighbors were going to call the police. They did, in fact, go. Carrie Morgan had the LAPD card. KK suggests, say they had a fun drunk night. She calls and reaches Eddie Garcia. Eddie Garcia is another security guard who works at the Intercontinental Hotel. KK has the defendant call Eddie on his personal cell phone. Oh, wait, hold on, sorry. KK suggests, say you had a fun drunk night. She calls and reaches Eddie Garcia. Eddie says no. Then KK shows up in person. He won't show it to her, but he says off the record, he won't show KK the video, but he shows off the record that is bad. KK then has Diddy call Eddie Garcia on his personal cell phone. And so that's where they make the exchange. It was right here. Once Eddie says that his boss will do it for $50,000, Diddy calls him Eddie my angel. So proven again, bribery. They pay $50,000 for that recording that went viral, because the thing is they thought they were good, that they bought that video and they're good. What they didn't know is that Flores had actually recorded the video with his cell phone and recorded it. And so there was that copy, and that is the copy that got sold to CNN, and that's the copy that got played in the Diddy trial. Okay, so now Diddy starts calling Eddie my angel. That's how he's saved in Diddy's cell phone. Eddie goes to deliver the USB. D-Rock and KK are there, and Diddy counts out dollar by dollar the $50,000. Eddie told you that the security guard told him he came up with the defendant. That was D-Rock. Eddie asked Diddy, what if Cassie calls the police? So Diddy knew. Eddie finds the ID of the stand-in for Flores. NDAs are signed. Don't speak to anyone. It says in parentheses, for those asking, during this closing, Sean Combs has his chair pushed way back from the defense table and is looking around. Interesting. So yeah, so Diddy was kind of basically like pushed back, and he's just kind of like looking around, trying to like feel it out. Police involvement. Okay, wait, sorry. Here we go. Paying for silence is influencing testimony. In their opening, the defense team suggested that it was just bad publicity. Police involvement would hurt him. The two are connected. The next racketeering predicate is sex trafficking. Diddy's inner circle assisted whether they wanted to or not. Threats, drugs, lies, and illegal violence to make them have sex with escorts. This is not an attempt to criminalize dysfunctional relationships or personal sexual behavior. They did not want to have sex with strangers while Diddy self-pleasured. They were covered in oil, and so were, over and over again. In case y'all don't know, Diddy's freak-offs is he would have his girlfriend, which was Cassie and Jane Doe, have sex with male escorts while he would sit on the side and self-pleasure, generally with a covering over his face. Weirdo. Okay. Moving forward, we are not asking you to find that every hotel night or freak off was sex trafficking, or even the majority. You only need to find the elements were met one time, one freak off. That's it. He's guilty, but it was way more than just one. Sorry, I lost my place. It was way more than once. Let's start with Jane. Turn off the public screens. Oh, okay. Combs is still in his chair, pushed back from the defense table, at which Xavier Donaldson and Alexandra Shapiro have their chins in their hands. Xavier and Alexandra is his lawyers. Let me see. Let's start with the love bombings. Oh, no. Sorry, guys. Blah, 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 blah. Consider the sobriety party and in Jane's house. And in Jane's house. Let's start with the love bombing stage. Jane was head over heels. Yeah, she was. They traveled to the Caribbean. Dr. Hughes talked about this. She'd never met with any witness, but it was like she knew him. Love bombing is a tactic. He was grooming her. He gave Jane ecstasy, and she fell to the ground convulsing. The defendant liked baby oil and red lights. Then, introduced in May 2021, she wanted to please her partner. She was high. The defendant had a freak-off set up that very night. Oh, that's right. So she had just tried ecstasy for the first time, and then she told him she'd be willing to try a freak-off, and he arranged it like immediately. It happened that night. Jane was excited by this first experience. She didn't realize she had opened Pandora's box. It became 90% of their relationship. Ill. For a while, she went along. Then she told him she wanted it to stop. There are texts about this. So they show it up on the screen, but the screen is turned off to the courtroom and they can't see what it says. Jane wrote, I wanted to do things outside these rooms, to travel with you. Diddy ignored Jane's discomfort. Those hotel nights were not about what Jane wanted, they were about what Diddy wanted to see. He decided how long. Hotel nights, king nights, wild king nights, wild hotel nights, those are all freak offs. They're all one and the same. He had like different names with different girls. Jane said if she was going to have sex with strange men, she should choose who. Diddy made her ask them for nude photos. These were not for her. When she asked to use condoms, the defendant was not happy. He was dismissive and condescending. She would try to have it go by faster. He'd order her to slow down. It was about what he wanted. He dangled carrots. He gave her gifts and money. He lied to her repeatedly. She asked, when are we doing a getaway? He said that they go on a yacht, but didn't. Here's what Jane wrote in her notes app. I don't want to have you use me to fulfill your freaky wild desires in hotel rooms. He used his payment of her rent as leverage. The carrot turned into a stick, she wrote. The threats and innuendo are nonstop. Oh, he paid for her veneers because he didn't like her teeth. Then he said, look at the roof over your head and your pretty mouth and teeth. He wanted the all-star party, sex with 3 men. She sent him a photo of her period blood. That's right. He wanted to do a freak off. She said no because she was on her period, and she even sent a picture and he didn't care. He sent this voice note to her. It's a recording with Diddy's voice. I'm about to really disappear on you. I don't have no time for this, baby girl. You got me on my job. You got to get on your job. The message couldn't be clearer. He's not going to take no for an answer. Okay. In parentheses, for those asking, Slavic is the attorney who's speaking right now, the prosecutor. Slavic is looking down and reading her closing statement from a binder on the lectern. Back to Slavic. After reading Cassie's lawsuit, Jane writes to Diddy, I feel like I'm reading my own sexual trauma. 2 of my birthdays, you have forced me. Jane wrote, you gaslit me. It was sexual exploitation you framed as love for your sick fetishes. Diddy called her and tried to trick her into saying it was all consented to. He fed her a false narrative. Listen to this clip. He talked over her. They don't get to hear the clip, but in case you don't know, then he like called her and she thought that she wondered if Diddy was recording their conversation, and basically he was kind of trying to get her to say, hey, this was all consensual, right? Like you wanted to be a part of this, you wanted to do this. Dr. Hughes. So Dr. Hughes is a doctor who specializes in sexual abuse victims, and she testified earlier on in the trial. Dr. Hughes told you how a victim is trauma bonded to her abuser. Jane often felt that Diddy didn't listen to the truth. She said, Sean would say just to move on. He told her to charge him, that lawyers would be involved to buy her silence. Jeez. So she asked for $100,000 a year for her to move on. She thought it was reasonable, far less than Cassie. The Diddy went ballistic. She refused to adopt the false narrative. You can read the text message. So I guess they put up a text message, but they can't see it on the screen. Jane wrote that the defendant was going to show her SEX tapes to the father of her child. Okay, so in case you don't know, Jane Doe's baby daddy is 50 Cent. So she's writing that Diddy told her he was going to show the freak off tapes to 50 Cent. Then he reached out and told her to come see him in Miami. Jane makes it clear that she doesn't want a hotel night. Diddy says okay. Despite his promise, he still called an escort. Here are more threats about the rent. Jane writes, I hate worrying about the rent. This was in 2024. It all culminated in June 2024. He assaulted her and forced her to perform oral sex on an escort. That is sex trafficking. It was interstate and the Astroglide crossed state lines. How does the Astroglide have anything to do with it? Who said Jane was? No, Jane is 50 Cent's baby mama. Go do your research. That's who Jane Doe is. Um, okay, this is interesting to me. It says it was interstate and the Astroglide crossed state lines. I am screenshotting that. We're gonna have to pin that one. Because Astroglide is not illegal. I mean, unless all they're trying to say is they're trying to prove that it's a lubricant and it's used for sex. And so because it was transported with a male escort, then it guarantees that it was for sex. Weird. Okay. Anyways, the Diddy knew or recklessly disregarded that force, threat of force, coercion, or fraud was used. Consenting once doesn't mean that she consented every time. One time is enough. In 2023, he made Jane feel like she'd have a proper New York City weekend, but he invited escorts. Jane sent him another message. It's dark and sleazy, in fear of losing my home. Diddy's response? Girl, stop. Then he FaceTimed her and told her about stopping and dinner. He lied. Look, so she goes to like show a summary thing, but the courtroom can't see it because everything's half the shit's anonymous on there. Anyway, Diddy is also texting Paul Arthur, an escort. Look at these messages. He's setting up a hotel night. When she is in the air, he tells her that he has a surprise for her. She doesn't want it. Before the plane even lands is a completed act of sex trafficking. He tricked her. Then, under coercion, she calls Cabral to come to New York. In the next text, she says, in New York City, I knew you would pair me up with a random person. So basically, he's like, hey, come see me in NYC. And she's like, okay, sure, I'm happy. She's like, but I don't want to go for a freak off. And he's like, don't worry, girl. Everything's all good. And while she's going in amidst flying, he's arranging a freak off. He already has a male escort. So then when she gets there, she finds out and she's like, well, if you're going to make me have sex with a stranger, let me call this male escort Cabral, because she like likes the guy. Like she's formed a connection with this guy at this point because they've had so many freak offs. So in this sobriety party without drugs, so it's only called the sobriety party because it's like the one time that they didn't use drugs. She is so disgusted that she vomits. Oh, she writes, I'm not a porn star. I'm not an animal. I need a break. Diddy responds, let's spend the day. No strangers. She replies, you'll love bomb me. No, you didn't. You didn't miss anything. It's like it's not supposed to be disclosed, but it's literally just everywhere. Like that's the whole reason why they let her be John Dane was to keep her anonymity. But too many people are talking, and they're not doing really good about disguising that her baby daddy is 50 Cent. Not to mention, if you guys don't follow 50 Cent, 50 Cent posting a lot of shade at his baby mama, talking all about this. So no, you didn't miss anything, Twisted Vanilla. This is just how shit is playing out, sadly. Okay. Let me find my way back. He switches from carrot to stick. I don't know what that means. Oh, the house. He texts, are you going to let me into our house? 8 times. Then he said he was sick and needed her. She went and had sex with 3 different men without drugs. After she vomits, he said, get back out there. Okay, so what happens is she's forced to do this freak off. She doesn't want to do it. She's literally sick and she has to, I think she does one or two, and then he has them lined up back to back. He had three guys for that particular evening, and he has her do one. Now he orchestrates everything. His whole fetish about doing these freak off nights is he sits in the corner and self pleasures while he directs what they're doing off to the side. And so she performs, and she tries to speed it up and he slows it back down because she's trying to get through it to be done with it and not do it. I'm Hawaiian. But he always like slows it back down. And so she does, I think she either has sex with one or two men, and then she literally goes to the bathroom and vomits and is like, I'm sick. And he was like, no, you're better. You just vomited. Come on, get your butt back out there. Let's go. And so he forces her to have another one with another man. So on that particular date, she slept with three men, male escorts, one right after the other. Get back out there is what he told her. 2024 in Jane's house, 3 months after Homeland Security agents searched Diddy's homes, they used Jane's house. I did not realize this. They used James' house. He came there. They were supposed to have a fun date night. They drank and argued. She pushed his head into the counter. Okay. I didn't realize that was a time frame. He was still doing freak offs even after his house got raided. Hi, Joe Taylor. Even after his house got raided, he still went and had freak offs, but except this time it was at her house. That's a little crazy to me that he knew the feds was on him hard. He had his houses just get raided and he was still doing it, but he just decided to do it at her house now. That's crazy to me. I didn't realize that it was all at the same time frame. Wow. Okay. Anyway, so they got into an actual altercation. She started it. She shoved his head. She pushed his head into the counter, and then that was it. When she did that, he was just trying to beat her. He's charged with RICO. This is explaining RICO. They're connecting the dots on all the things that needs to be proven, which they are connecting all the dots. Okay. That was supposed to be a fun date night. They drank and argued. She pushed his head into the counter. He shouted at her. She told him to leave. She ran and closed the door. She locked herself in a room. He kicked down 3 doors. You saw the doors. Here's one of them on the screen. So now they're showing it up there. She ran without shoes. She hid, and he was waiting for her. Jane hit Diddy. He punched her in the face. Here are the photos. All the screens are off though, because this isn't being shown because she's Jane Doe, it's supposed to be anonymous. That's why they're not showing the photographs. Okay. Otherwise, if it was Cassie, they would have shown the photographs in the courtroom and everybody there could have seen it. Blah, 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 blah. Diddy dragged her by the hair back into the house. Jane took his phone and called the other woman. I believe the other woman is Young Miami, excuse me. She shouted. Diddy then called Jonathan Perez. Jonathan Perez was one of his assistants. Diddy followed her into the shower and hit her, knocked her down. He called Anton, the escort, and told her to have sex with him. She put on makeup to hide her injuries. She drove to pick up Anton at the gate. Then Diddy said, "Take this effing pill." Yes, he should have been locked up a long time. Federal charges overcharging him. Diddy put his face inches away from her and asked, "Is this the coercion?" Wait, yeah. He was brazenly acknowledging that he was breaking the very same law he violated before. Wait, I missed that in reading everything. Diddy put his face inches from her and asked, "Is this coercion?" So he did. Jane Doe was mad that Diddy bought Young Miami a Chanel bag and took her shopping at Chanel and didn't take Jane Doe shopping at Chanel. Meanwhile, Jane Doe's doing all these freak offs. So there's that whole thing over there. Sorry. I think that's interesting if he made that statement that he knew that he was being looked at for coercion and he asked Jane Doe that. No, not neither. I believe it's Young Miami, if I'm thinking about what you're thinking. Okay. He was brazenly acknowledging that he was breaking the very same law he had violated before. Jane didn't want to have SEX with the escort that night. She said no. But he wouldn't take no for an answer. Jane performed oral sex until Anton ejaculated. The defendant told his security to bring cash to Anton. They didn't have it. The next day, he gave Jane the money to pay Anton. She Ubered the bag of money over to him. This is coercion. Judge, Miss Slavic, at the appropriate time, let's break for lunch. Miss Slavic, this would be a great time. Judge, okay, jurors, you may go and eat. Speaking of break. Okay. So at 1:25, they're back. Judge, Miss Slavic, are you ready? And she says, just to flag for the court, we are going to need to change our PowerPoints. The clerk, can we turn the public screens on? Apparently not, because I guess they don't. All rise, jurors enter. The judge says, Ms. Slavic, you may proceed. Ms. Slavic, let's go back. The 3 nights were part of a buildup from fraud to coercion to finally force. Ooh, this is where they're getting the forced labor and the coercion. Wow. Okay. I'm stoked for the prosecution. I'm glad. She says, I apologize. Judge, do you need to change the batteries? I guess there's a loud beeping and something goes off. Deputy, blah, blah, blah. Did they change it? Okay. Slavic, the house was just an example of defendant's financial coercion of Jane. Also drugs. They became a necessary part of SEX. Jane told you about Miami in 2024. Diddy gave her liquid Molly. They showed you the video. They'll argue that she was super into it, but she was super, super high. Diddy's coercion included threats to release tapes of her having SEX in the hotel room. So in case you guys don't know, he would record these freak-offs of Cassie, of Jane Doe, and then he would use it, hang it over their head and tell them if they were ever acting some type of way, he would always threaten that he was going to release this SEX tapes. Combs threatened to send SEX tapes to Jane's baby daddy, 50 Cent. This was to coerce her into more commercial SEX acts. The defense has suggested that Jane agreed to these hotel nights. Let's talk about what agreeing means. Theirs is an incomplete picture. Let's turn to volume 2. We're going to talk about Cassie with several examples. You know from sitting through this trial that force was not limited to these days. Through the decade they were together, he forced her to have SEX with escorts. Cassie was 19. He was in his late 30s. He signed her to a 10-record deal. He took her on a yacht and he gave her ecstasy. By the way, I just want to say one thing. Well, 50 has always hated Diddy. In case you don't know, from the very gate, from when 50 came out, 50 talks about in this interview that Diddy came up to him at Chris Lighty's wedding and told 50, he goes, hey man, you're hot right now. Let me take you shopping. Let me buy you some clothes. And 50 just kind of looked at him like, the fuck are you asking me? He was like offended. He's like, how the hell is this grown ass man going to tell me he's going to take me shopping? And he was just like, let me back away from this person, because he was like, I'm about to ruin this wedding right now. So 50 says that in an interview, okay, that is what happens. Now that's from when 50 became huge, which is what, early 2000s. And so no, this started way before Jane Doe ever came into the picture. But I believe that 50 has known that Diddy was dating his ex-baby mama all that time, and just that might have escalated it. Okay, so really quick, in case you don't know, Diddy originally signed Cassie to a 10-record deal when she was 19 years old and when it first started, okay, when she first came up in the scene. This was before they even were an item. They were nothing. Bad Boy signed her. Here's just for a little comparison for you guys. Beyonce has released 8 albums, solo albums, over the span of her career. So if you were to apply that to the same logic, there was no intention of Cassie ever getting out of that deal. To say that you're going to sign somebody to 10 albums, a 10 album contract deal, is pretty much locking them down. And he didn't. They released one and they never released any more. And Cassie said she kept pushing him and wanting to. During her testimony, she said he just wouldn't. And he just kind of kept using everything against her. Oh, shit. Sorry. Okay. I might have to cut this off because I have someone coming in 15 minutes. Okay, he signed her to the 10 record deal. He took her on a yacht, gave her ecstasy. They had sex. They were in a relationship. She just turned 21. Diddy was her boss, who called all of the shots. Diddy molded her. He told Capricorn Clark, let me show you. Then he would order Cassie around. She did it. She walked and turned around. She had total compliance to Diddy. He didn't take no for an answer. He was abusive, physical, emotional, psychological, and sexual. Diddy's defense team wants you to call all of this domestic violence, but what he was forcing her to do at the freak-off, he was forcing her to have the freak-offs. He controlled everything. He demanded that her nails be done a certain way on red carpets. The Vanity Fair party in 2014, Deontay Nash told you, he shouted, Combs shouted, I thought I told y'all she had to have her hair up. He wouldn't let her make money from her music. She was offered the chance to do a Common video. Diddy said no. He paid for her car, her clothing, her phones, her vacations. He made Cassie dependent on him. Diddy did it to Cassie's family too. After he found out that she was with Kid Cudi, he demanded $20,000 from her parents to pay Diddy back, or else he would release the sex tapes. That month, in just this account, he had $3.2 million coming in and out. That was all about control. So they're saying that he told her parents to pay him $20,000 for these sex tapes so he wouldn't release them. And they're saying Diddy received $3.2 million in his account within that month. So it had nothing to do with money and everything to do with control. Remember what Dr. Hughes said: when a victim is on unsure footing, the abuser has control. He punched her, he kicked her, he dragged her. When it was bad, he hid her in the hotels to heal and not be seen. You saw photos and videos of D-Rock, Rube, Pauly. They all knew. Diddy attacked her for attending a Prince party until Prince's security intervened. Mia and Myra Morales described abuse to you. Cassie told you when she got to the house, he threatened to release the sex tapes. He assaulted her in Jamaica. He beat her up in Vegas while she was curled up under the toilet. She said D-Rock cried. There was his assault at the Intercontinental Hotel, all of it caught on tape. For Cassie, it was her normal. She was there when he attacked Mia, Devontae Nash, and Banna. Banna may have gotten the date wrong, but she was injured. One time he had Cassie hold guns for him. The diner and the Suge Knight incident, Cassie was in the house. She saw. Why didn't she leave? Miss Hughes explained that hitting leads to fear. Even when Cassie was in South Africa, she could not get away from Diddy. KK kept calling Cassie. D-Rock was loyal only to Diddy. D-Rock is his security, in case you guys don't know. He would play both sides. He talked to Cassie, then he'd report it back to Diddy. She about to ice up. I told her to chill out. They met for dinner in Malibu. Then he R-worded her on the living room floor. She said no. She cried. But he didn't take no for an answer. He R-worded her. He wrote, I could tell I didn't turn you on yesterday. That is because he R-worded her. Because of the trauma bond, after the R-word, she met him at a friend's party, then had sex. Consensual sex. This was a trauma bond. He had an MO, An hours long performance where he self pleasured and sometimes filled it, just like he did with Jane. Sometimes Diddy told the escort to urinate on her. I forgot about that. He would tell them to urinate in their mouth. Remember, Cassie said that she told him that Diddy told the male escort to urinate in her mouth. Why? To turn himself on. She became a drug addict. Here she writes, I love our freak offs when we both want it. Jurors, this is not an all or nothing situation. There were times that he knew she didn't want to do it. That is sex trafficking. She obviously didn't want to have an escort urinate in her mouth while she lay on the floor. Let's talk about the videos. You've seen the clips. You don't see weapons. You see her having sex, M word, self pleasuring. The defendant is moving the camera around. Diddy is moving the camera around, at times focusing on the escort, not Cassie at all. It's clear this is about his fantasy, not Cassie's. March 5th, 2016, at the Intercontinental Hotel. The video, but Cassie, before the Intercontinental Hotel, Cassie had a premiere. It was a big night for her. She agreed to do a freak off as damage control. Look at this. She says, I don't want you thinking I don't want to. She knows that the defendant won't take no for an answer. Diddy gets Jules to come. You know what happens. An argument. Diddy hits Cassie in the face. All she can think about is her premiere. She takes off without her shoes. Then now they show the Intercontinental video. He throws her to the ground. Diddy kicks her, then drags her back to the room where Jules is waiting. Why is the dragging relevant? Because Jules is there. Freak-offs have multiple sessions. They were between sessions. He leaves her, but he takes her bags. But she doesn't follow him. Wow, that makes so much sense now, the contents of the video. So, okay. In that video where she gets beat by Diddy, they said that the escort was in the room. Now it makes sense because he would have them do sessions when they would do the freak off. So it sounds like one session was done and she tried to escape and he brought her back to do another freak off session with Jules, who is in the hotel room. Instead, Cassie is using the phone in the elevator. Wait, sorry. He kicks her, then drags her back to the room where Jules is waiting. Why is the dragging relevant? Because Jules is there. Freak-offs have multiple sessions. They were between sessions. He leaves her, but he takes her bags, but she doesn't want to follow him. So he's I don't know if you guys saw it, but he takes her bags and he's like basically holding them hostage because he wants her to come and follow. Give me a second. God damn it. Hi, Crystal. I'm so sorry. Come in a second. Did you not? Is there no printing? Sorry, I'm recording really quick. Okay. Come. Have a seat. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to make it end shortly. Okay, wait. Cassie is using the phone in the elevator lobby. The defendant is making another conscious decision to take the bags into the room, then come back for Cassie with his hands free. He grabs her phone, then makes the decision to stay. He stays even though he is in a towel and looks ridiculous. After Flores arrives, he stalls in the hall. He knows that Jules is still in the room, possibly naked. The defense claims he took back drugs that day, but you can see that he is in full control. Cassie just wanted to get her bag and phone and leave. The defendant offered Flores money. This is a photo of Jane in the car back to her house with sunglasses on her black eye. She was using force to get Cassie to continue with the freak. He was using force to continue with the freak off. The defense may tell you that the violence was not connected to sex, but it was an attempt to get Cassie to continue with the freak off. Later, she wrote to him, I'm not a rag doll. I'm someone's child. There were freak offs in New York with Daniel Phillip. Daniel Phillip was not paid for his time. This is a ridiculous argument. In one freak off between session, the defendant told Cassie to come in the bedroom. She kept using the computer. Diddy threw a bottle, dragged her, then slapped her. Daniel Phillip heard Combs yell, bitch, when I tell you to come here, you come here. After that, Daniel Phillip could not perform. but a completed act is not required for sex trafficking. This is sex trafficking. Cannes, that's where they were at the film festival. Diddy accused Cassie of stealing his drugs. He threw her off the boat that they were staying on. I totally forgot he did that. Mia heard an audio of this, recognized the voices. They flew back to New York. She traded seats to get away, but he followed her and showed her the freak off video. So, in case you don't know, she was trying to get away from Diddy and she got on the plane and she tried to go and get a seat and he went and bought the seat by her. And on the plane ride, Diddy is showing her the freak off tapes on his laptop. Like, basically, what do you call that? Like taunting her with it. Um, he threatened to release the SCX tapes. When they got to New York, they had a freak off. This is just another example of clear cut coercion. He threw her off a boat without her passport. He wanted Cassie to be afraid to say no to him. Cassie said, I didn't know what no would mean, what no would turn into. He could be violent. The defense said Cassie made a choice every day to stay with him. Step back. Imagine yourself as Cassie. This was the force. This was the leverage. There were the drugs, disassociative and numbing. She needed that buffer. Yes, some of the messages are explicit. That doesn't mean that she wanted to have sex with escorts at free cost. In 2009, he wrote, You're supposed to be seducing me all day. Ew. Cassie told the defendant she didn't want to do freak offs. Take her birthday party, for example. Deontay told you about it. Diddy demanded that she freak off, and so she did. What choice did Cassie have in the end? She did not have the freedom to make voluntary adult choices. Let's go back to count number 1 for a minute. While it was the defendant in the freak offs, he had help. KK, D-Rock, and Fahim. They knew it was wrong. How did they facilitate? KK got strange men access to rooms that Diddy and Cassie shared. KK got Clayton Howard, Dave access to the room. I believe Dave was his like stage name. His real name is Clayton Howard. Jonathan Perez found the video of Cassie having sex with an escort. He showed it to KK. She knew. Fahim saw it too. Fahim got drugs to Diddy even during the freak-offs in between sessions. On February 18, 2024, after Jane told KK still sent stuff for Wild King nights. D-Rock iced Cassie's black eyes. It would be absurd to think that D-Rock didn't know what they were doing. Of course he knew. I expect that the defense will say that they didn't know. David James saw a stranger. Deontay Nash saw one. Jonathan Perez saw a video of Jane having sex with another man while the defendant watched. Interstate travel for prostitution? Diddy paid the escorts. He caused the travel. He sometimes booked it. The transportation counts do not require force, fraud, or coercion. Even if all consented, we know that that's not true. It is still a crime. It's just knowing transportation with the intent the individual engage in prostitution. As for count 3, freak-offs involving Cassie, the escort's travel was often booked by travel agents. She remembered Dave Clayton Howard, who would travel from New York to Miami or LA. Another escort traveled to Ibiza. So right there, that's sex trafficking. They're crossing state lines for the intents and purpose of sex. This was Jules Theodore at the London Hotel in New York City. The defendant asked for Jules' name for the ticket. Diddy's American Express show that he paid for the car. Here's a $2,000 bill from the London Hotel. Diddy texted, I will tip you. For what? Tip you for sex. For this incident alone, Diddy is guilty under count 3, but there's more. More of Jules at the London Hotel starting at 7 a.m. Consider this. Paul's going to Turks. Diddy says, how should I pay? He paid for Paul's travel to Turks for sex. Here, Reggie flew from Las Vegas to LA for SEX. He is never tired. Jane sent $1,100 via Cash App. Here is the hotel folio, $4,000 of damage. The hotel staff found bodily fluids on the floor. It couldn't be clearer. So, what she's doing is she's handing them evidence, right? She's like, here, this is this receipt for the travel. Here, this is the payment for this. Okay, that's why she says here. Every time KK helped arrange travel for the Wild King night, she was part of the crime. She may not have liked it, but she did it. KK sent up travel for a Wild King night in Vegas. And then they play an audio of Diddy, which says, the wildest Wild King night in Vegas. KK knows. KK helped Cabral book his travel. Diddy asked KK for cash. She knows exactly what is going on. She facilitated travel for the escorts. Each is a racketeering act. You only need to find 2 acts. Just here, there are dozens. Afternoon break? Okay, thank God. Oh my God. And then they have more. I'm going to have to do another one because I got to get to work. But thank you everybody for tuning in, joining. Thank you for watching. KK was Diddy's chief of staff for 15 years, and she was like Jeffrey Epstein's Ghislaine Maxwell. She did like all the same stuff, maybe not as much, but she knew full and well. I expected they're going to bring federal charges against her, so we shall see. Anyways, thank you so much to everybody who's watching. Thank you so much for following. Hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate you guys if you do. I'm bringing you guys all the Diddy news, factual Diddy news. What I'm reading here is what has been transcribed in court today. Okay, that's everything I read to you is exactly what the prosecutor said today. So I'm going to be on top of this. They're going to start deliberating the verdict starting on Monday, and so make sure you guys subscribe, hit the follow, and I will keep you guys updated. Thank you so much for joining. Aloha.